Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Rochester Press Box. I'm Bill Pucko. Good to be back. I missed a few weeks out on vacation out in Arizona. And honest God, I missed you guys.
Well, we missed you too. We're glad you're here. If people only knew what we talked about off air, I'm happy Bill is here every week.
No, you don't really love sitting in my seat.
No, I love yelling at him.
The last three shows were just half an hour of us going, "Where's Bill? Where's Bill?" over and over again.
Best ratings, by the way.
Not true, not true.
Hey, let's talk baseball off the top. Spring training has begun, and there's all these rule changes, and they're impacting the way the game is played. What do you think, Tariq?
I love the clock. Let's stick with that. The basis thing makes an interesting point here. We understand it sort of prevented some injuries in the minor leagues. I love that. And the shift. Play where you are. You know what I mean? Stay on the infield. Don't go to the shallow outfield and try to do these different shifts. Let's see if this works. I think the biggest impact is going to be that clock. I'd like to see how this impacts players. Maybe they go through their routine a little bit faster.
Look, all of those things he brought up, I love. The clock is my favorite thing on the planet because first of all, I've been watching spring training to see how the clock impacts the game. I know there's been stories of games ending on clock violations. For all of you old timers that have a problem with the clock potentially, I want you to do something. Go back to a game from 1988 from all four major sports: baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Football has gotten faster and more exciting. Basketball, without question, faster and more exciting. Hockey is the best it's ever been, even though nobody's really watching it. Baseball's the same. It's the exact same game in 1988 than it is now. And baseball dragged their feet so long that you've turned it into a regional sport until we get into September. It's what you need, and it's making the game great.
But as a football fan, if a football game lasted on average 20 minutes longer than it did, would you watch any less?
I am a football freak, and I think football is a bad comparison because football owns a day of the week in America. I think if you compared it to basketball or hockey, that would be better. And with basketball, if it took another 20 minutes, I think it would keep me from watching a basketball game from front to back.
Well, let's go to basketball for a minute. What's the worst part about watching a basketball game? The end of the game where everybody's fouling, trying to get back into the game at the free throw line, or maybe a steal and a three-point Reggie Miller play or something like that. That is the one thing people hate about the game's length. The game in and of itself has its own little quirks, but I think this is good for baseball. Let's go evolve here. That puts a clock on the game. Never happened before.
I know you guys like baseball. I love baseball. I grew up on it, Boston Red Sox, Fenway Park, all the rest of the stuff. I think the biggest difference is going to be the size of the base. I think this thing is just radically changed. Teams are going to steal. Teams are going to get more infield hits because of the base. You think every close play in the last couple of years in a baseball game is going to go the way of the offense. Every guy who was thrown out by that much trying to steal a base, he's safe now.
But again, if you look at the other three of the four major sports, they have all moved to make offense more important. Baseball did that with what's been going on with home runs, but that altered the game to a point where sometimes it's unwatchable depending on who's playing. What you're describing helps make the game more exciting and pushes offense forward.
I love the shifts. In fact, the fact that they're getting rid of that, keeping these players in their position. Let's see if we can hit. Let's see if we can field. Let's see if we can play some defense here. And maybe score some runs out of this, too. The shift is, I'm sure the players love it that hate the shift.
Yeah, and the idea that the guys have to stand in the dirt, too.
Yeah.
That brings them in a little tighter.
Yep.
So the game is better off.
I think so. I mean, other than the fact that they play a lot of games, which everybody seems to complain about.
Yeah, but what sport couldn't benefit by the shortening of a season?
I mean, This is true. I mean, you also don't want those teams that are totally out of it to tank the end of the season when a team's trying to get into the playoffs, so.
Which brings in relegation, right?
Yes, yes, I know.
The most boring discussion ever. So the game is better off now, right?
There is no question in my mind that 10 years from now, if you keep these changes, baseball is better for it.
We're the Rochester Press Box. We're talking Buffalo Bills next.
Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. If you like to travel like I do, you'll love my travel books. Buy one, get one free right now. Email me, let me know what you need. MikeTheGetawayGuy@gmail.com. I'll even sign it. MikeTheGetawayGuy@gmail.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Buffalo Bill segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. 3 generations celebrating 50 years as New York's first and oldest Honda dealer. Visit Ralph Honda today. Find out how we do Honda right at ralphhonda.com. I view this as sort of like the the slow death of the Buffalo Bills, although it's not terminal, when you lose coaches. It's 2 years ago, the big thing about the Buffalo Bills is that they had their staff and their roster. Everything was intact. So you lose your offensive coordinator last year. You're losing your defensive coordinator this year. Those things are hard to overcome, I think.
No, I agree with you. I mean, the good thing the Bills have is Leslie Frazier was running the defense that Sean McDermott brought with him. He was calling the defense, but it wasn't Leslie Frazier's defense, it's Sean McDermott's defense. So that's a bonus. That being said, you have a serious problem right now with Leslie Frazier leaving. It's going to be all internal candidates, and I know there are people pissed at Leslie Frazier for making this decision after everyone had been hired. I got news for you. It was going to be an internal candidate promotion anyway, because that's what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott do. I'm sorry.
Let me first throw that in there. For those of you that are upset about that, that leads me to the point of this was one of those things that might have come out of the blue. So here as we're taping this, I don't know why Leslie Frazier is leaving. So let's not jump to conclusions on what it was. Now, I know you're not. Yeah. I just think a lot of people are kind of like, what is he doing? He could have just made this decision 3 months ago. Maybe something happened in Leslie Frazier's life that led to this decision.
Absolutely.
And conspiracy theorists, I mean, is it possible it's not entirely his choice?
It might not have been his choice, which also plays into this.
All right, so I will say this. They did, Beane and McDermott did a press conference at the Combine earlier this week. They're always forthcoming with all this stuff. Both of them vehemently said that the plan was for him to be back next year being defensive coordinator. And the fact that it had taken this long leads me to believe that they are telling the truth. Because if you were going to make the move, you would have done it while you had the potential to bring people in to interview.
Yeah, go ahead. I interrupted.
No. I want to go back to Duffy's point, though, because I think that's the most important thing. We go to these hypotheticals very quickly. As we're taping this right now, we do not know. So there could be some information that comes out later on about Leslie Frazier where we're kind of like, ooh, I kind of look bad being upset that he made this decision. But go ahead.
Absolutely.
McDermott take a larger role now?
I think it's a mistake. Look, he could. I don't think as a head coach you can call a defense just based on how complicated things are in game, especially with the way that the Bills are built. McDermott, all of a sudden in the last couple of years, has become this riverboat gambler when it comes to 4th and short based on where you are in the field. Well, you're not going to be able to concentrate fully on that because you guys know as well as I do on 4th and 2, you need to start thinking about field position and what defensive calls are coming. On 3rd and 13, you need to start thinking about where that ball is going to be when it's coming the other way and what you're going to do to neutralize that other offense. I don't know how, not to mention the extra hours that as a head coach you would have to put in to call those defensive plays. I think you need to have someone else calling the actual plays on game day to be successful.
Let me ask you if you think this balances. So we have that on the defensive side. Well, Ken Dorsey's coming back as a second-year coordinator. I think the assumption is he'll get better at this job. Do these balance off?
I think so. You know, the fact that Duffy made the point about McDermott basically running that defense and now he's in more control of it as he was before. I think he said something, too, about putting more teeth into that defense where, you know, there might be a lot of changes going on, especially with that secondary going to Buffalo. But for Dorsey, this is going to be interesting. It's a lot of chips at the beginning of this table here. Remember, the Buffalo Bills underperformed last year. They have to improve yet again on their offense, maybe develop a running game. I know I'm like a broken record with it, but there's some possibility for them to do that through the draft or through some players in free agency. This is going to be interesting. I think it takes the pressure off of him a little bit in a sense that if you run that offense a little bit different, a little bit more time-consuming, get that defense ready to go, you could have a very, very formidable team.
How do you run an offense time-consuming that's built on moving down the field as quickly as possible? Explain that to me.
And how well does that work for you?
Okay, I don't know. AFC Championship.
13-3.
You didn't win.
13-3. A guy died. A guy died on the field. Can we
He didn't play in the AFC Championship game. You guys went to the AFC Championship game, then you lost again, and you haven't gotten back to the AFC Championship game.
I love his team goes to the playoffs one time with, by the way, a former Bills staffer, and all of a sudden, let me tell you how things work in the playoffs. Let me tell you.
We were all on the same page as he's suggesting, though, that the whole idea that the Bills kind of ran out of gas with all the things that were thrown at him. I says, we a few weeks ago agreed that played a role.
And I do acknowledge that, and I get all that, and that changed the total dynamics of the team, but you also had a lot of people rallying around this team going into the playoffs, and it still did not result in what you were looking for, which was a trip to the Super Bowl.
Really? Why? Because Pam and Iowa was cheering for the Bills? That was going to help Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott and Josh Allen and Trey Edmonds. By the way, I'm not done with this. I got unfinished business with Leslie Frazier.
I brought up the same topic Bill did this last week, and he didn't even yell at Bill. He yelled at me. Want to know why? Because I brought it up.
And I wasn't here.
We were all saying, where's Bill? Where's Bill?
It's fun.
Our Buffalo Bills segment was brought to you by Ralph Honda. Like it or not is next.
I like this show already.
Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road.
Hey, hello again, Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. I have been traveling everywhere, and you can see my latest getaways right now. Just search for The Getaway Guy on Facebook. That's The Getaway Guy on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Like It or Not segment is brought to you by Sport Clips, where the MVP experience is better than ever. Sport Clips, the pros and men's hair. No appointment needed. Stop by a Rochester location today. Tariq, we got a couple of former number 2 overall pick quarterbacks available on the free agent market.
I don't want
to
any
me,
of them.
just I'm not saying that we want them.
No.
Or that the Giants would want him,
No.
which I know is near and dear to your heart.
No.
But the idea that it's still just such a crapshoot with quarterback. This is 2015, 2016. Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota selected 2nd overall, and they're busts.
And you know what? It's interesting to see how these teams have basically absorbed them in. It's like, oh, he's a former number 1 pick. For years, we've had players like, Sam Bradford, all these other guys, number 1 pick, let's get him in, let's bring him in. And they don't perform well. Now it seems as if Carson Wentz, I'm not sure where his career goes. I think he's holding a clipboard the rest
He'd
of
have
the way.
been an MVP several years ago.
But it all sort of flipped when Philadelphia won the Super Bowl without him, and his confidence has gone down every single year since then. Marcus Mariota had so many high hopes, just never really put it together anywhere solid, so I feel bad.
No, but Tariq brings up a great point. Not only are these guys busts, but they're busts that showed that they were going to be legitimate NFL star quarterbacks before all of a sudden it turned. Marcus Mariota, you forget, had a lot of smoke around him, right? He brought the Titans to the playoffs. It wasn't until Ryan Tannehill was his backup that he lost his job. Carson Wentz may have won the Super Bowl.
And MVP,
Yes,
yeah.
as the starting quarterback of that team, had it not been for that injury. And even the year after. Look, I think it has less to do with a quarterback being a bust and more to do with where they show up. Because once the coordinators left, to your point earlier, in Philadelphia after that Super Bowl, everything changed for Carson Wentz. Were the people in place that needed Mariota to succeed in Tennessee. And then, after you were labeled a bust, you don't get a second chance on a team that's good. You get a second chance on a guy that's first head coach. He's being promoted from quarterback coach to coordinator, and that works against you.
The number 2 is the curse of being number 2. The difference between 1 and 2, and the selection's been right on. The 1 has been better than the 2, all the way back to Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf.
Okay, fair enough. But then you look at the Baker Mayfield draft, right, where you have 1 and 2, and Mayfield and Darnold complete busts, and the afterthoughts of the draft, and Josh Arnold and Lamar Jackson have been. Lamar Jackson won an MVP. Josh Allen, MVP candidate every year.
Which makes you look at the NFL draft coming up in a couple of weeks. Who is going to be the number 1 quarterback? Everybody looks like Young, but could it be Stroud? Could it be a couple of even players that are starting to pump the pipeline a bit?
Hey, quickly, I didn't ask about the uniform.
Oh, what, are you not feeling Vinsane today? For Vinsanity?
Okay.
Top 5 jersey in NBA history, the original Raptors jerseys.
Boy, Raptors are so irrelevant right now.
The greatest dunker ever, even over Jordan.
Agreed. Yeah.
Hey, Patrick Kane gets dealt to the Rangers.
It's interesting. Analytically, Patrick Kane has been terrible. Statistically, if you look at the way it's supposed to work, he's going to make the Rangers team worse. That being said, the Rangers, 2 games away from a Stanley Cup last season, is doing everything they can to put offensive firepower on that top line, right? They already traded for Tarasenko earlier this season. I don't think it's a good idea with Kane, but hey, God bless you.
Well, these things make a difference, though. I mean, as good as the Bruins have been, because they've been on a record-breaking pace, when the playoffs come, it's like everything is condensed and it's a shot here and a shot there.
You're absolutely right. And here's the thing with the NHL, especially in the Eastern Conference, there's been so many trades. It's absolutely insane. But you have these juggernaut teams. Rangers, Leafs have been making a ton of moves. You got things going on up top. Only 2 of those teams. All of these teams that have been making moves and spending a ton of money are going to move out of the first round. So it could all be fool's gold to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, always are.
Well, that hot team, whatever it is in the NHL, that's the one to watch going in. So we'll wait and see.
Our Lucky or Not segment brought to you by Sport Clips.
What am I gonna
Unfinished
say?
business is next.
What am I going to say? I like the trade.
Carmelo Anthony does not get a job with the Los Angeles Lakers.
I don't like it because I still slightly root for Carmelo, but this whole thing about, it's LeBron James's fault, it's not. Carmelo apparently has friends throughout the league. They could get him on a roster. So I don't really like this whole narrative that it's always LeBron's fault because they're friends and he didn't help him come out. I think he could end up in Brooklyn with the Nets, would be an interesting fit. For the last few years of his career. But if he doesn't end up on a team, I think it's the league that's passed him by age-wise, and they're not tolerating any acts, and this is the way it is.
I think blackballing's a little strong.
It is, but you know he still has some ball left in him. It's just a matter of how many bridges did he burn that would say, I don't want him on my team.
I'm just saying a very smart man brought that point up a couple weeks ago. Just saying.
We are the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Unfinished Business segment is brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse, your beer destination since 2012. Visit the gift shop. Enjoy a tasting at our pilot brewery and dine at the pub-style restaurant at the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business. Pat.
A large segment of Bills fans that were loud on social media got what they wanted this week with Leslie Frazier not returning as defensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. And here is a cautionary tale for you. A scapegoat is great until that scapegoat is gone and you got to move forward. For example, 2 seasons ago, Brian Daboll, former offensive coordinator, now head coach of the New York Giants, was the reason why the Bills offense was not performing the way that it should have, even though it was performing in historically high numbers. Get rid of Daboll. Bring in Ken Dorsey. He knows what he's doing. That played out. They didn't fire him. Daboll takes a job. Here comes Dorsey, and the offense did not look the same. All of a sudden, wait. Well, maybe Daboll wasn't as bad as you thought. And let's talk about Leslie Frazier. The big complaint I've been reading on social media the last month is that the bend but don't break defense doesn't work in the NFL anymore. You can't give up giant chunks of yards, and that's what Leslie Frazier does. I got bad news for you. The NFL this season, the Bills were 4th in defensive yards allowed per game. He doesn't do it. What you're watching doesn't match up with numbers. The Bills were top 5 in almost every statistical defensive category. That was wild. It was a walking mash unit. No Tre'Davious White first half of the season. The game he comes back, you lose your prize free agent piece in Von Miller for the rest of this season. Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, Boogie Basham, Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Christian Bedford, Kaiir Elam, all missed time throughout the season, some more significant than others. And you want to sit here and tell me that Leslie Frazier is the reason why the Bills aren't succeeding in the postseason? Against the Bengals, after the Damar Hamlin incident, the Bills were down to their 5th safety. I didn't know they had 5 safeties, but you're right. Leslie Frazier was probably the issue.
So the NBA is all upset about players not playing, but then again, you see all the stars that have gone down within the last, month or so. Giannis Antetokounmpo, you got LeBron James, you've got Steph Curry, you've got all these other young stars also going down. So I guess there's a question of what to do when all these players really want to do is win a ring. Who cares about MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, or 6th man coming off the bench? Why don't we just, maybe scale back the games, a couple of games? I'm just saying maybe 5, 6, 7 games, more rest time between players so they can get the stars on the court and keep them on the court because that's what brings people to the court or watch the games or stream the games, however way you want to watch it. All I'm saying is that I know back in the 80s and 90s, guys played and they played and they played. But this is all about winning a championship. Nobody cares about regular season. Nobody cares about anything else but going out there and getting a ring. So why not have your best stars ready to play the night they're supposed to play and not rest them due to injury? We need our top stars. Right now, we don't have them.
I just got back from a trip that included a visit to Sedona, Arizona. It is one of the most picturesque places on the map. It is a place that bathes itself in natural beauty, yoga and meditation, tarot cards, and mysterious lights in the night that spawn stories of a secret underground military base. Excuse for all of this, a strong magnetic vortex, a mysterious presence that's said to spawn a feeling of well-being, the mother of all things out there. So it's only natural that I should return from the vortex more than a little interested in how Aaron Rodgers made it out of his darkness retreat. At a cost of $250 per day, you get to stay in an elegant 300-square-foot cabin devoid of any outside influences, including light. You get 3 meals a day, delivered in the dark, all at once, which is good, because deciding when, where, and how you eat are among the very few decisions you'll actually have to make. Otherwise, it's just you alone with your thoughts. The practice was born in the Far East and was taken to the next level by the indigenous people from Northern California. The Koji select male children to spend up to 9 years in the darkness for spiritual purification. There's no more scientific evidence that a darkness retreat produces anything more than drinking bleach to fight a virus, although to be fair, it is far less dangerous. Life has its moments. I'm glad Aaron Rodgers is in the sunshine again. I'm glad I escaped the vortex. It's good to be back. That's Unfinished Business, brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse. So who's in on a darkness retreat?
No, thank you. That's great. I think our country is already in darkness.
Now I can't stop thinking about you doing yoga, which is bothering.
Well, I didn't do it.
No, I mean, no, but now I got tight pants, you in my head, and I need a darkness retreat to get rid of that.
That's your issue. It's not mine.
Issue? Or...
Hey, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.
I'll pray for you.